If you want a high quality set of taillights for your 2021 or newer Ford Bronco that will make a statement for your build, these Morimoto XB LED low profile taillights with the black housing and smoke lens will be a great set to check out. I do want to mention that this set is going to exclude the Bronco Raptor, so just keep that in mind when you are shopping around for taillights. Now this set will be a great match for the Bronco owner who wants a stealthier vibe to their taillights and a clean appearance to the lighting to match with other LEDs on their build or even other black or smoked accents. While the appearance of these lights will offer a solid upgrade to the rear end, this is also a great pick if you're in search of taillights that will make a big difference with keeping your Bronco more noticed on the street and increase visibility when backing up if those two things are something that your build is currently struggling with. Now these both will feature lightly smoked lenses that will allow a lot of lighting through and not hindering the performance and still offering the dark and more aggressive appearance while taking on that lower profile design that will stay out of the way of hazards off-road if you are taking your Bronco on the dirt. Now on the inside, this will have a couple layers of lights, and starting off with the parking light or DRL, this is going to be this large outer border that's going to illuminate red for a simple yet noticeable look. And the inner two bars here are going to illuminate red, with the brake light being brighter than the outer border, and will switch back to amber whenever you hit the turn signal for a more dynamic appearance compared to the standard steady blinking red light that comes standard on most taillights. Now the center is where you're going to get the most performance for you in the driver's seat, with the strip of LEDs here that's going to light up in a bright white to help with the rear end visibility whenever you're backing up at night, which is going to do a much better job compared to the factory halogen bulb, especially if you live in a more remote area. Now these are going to be built very well with an injection molded ABS plastic housing, which is very common to create a factory fit, and that plastic is going to be very durable and resilient. Now the overall build here will also be much more slim compared to bulkier choices, which is going to offer that low profile appearance and function if, again, you are taking your Bronco on the dirt. Now the lens will have a polycarbonate construction that's going to be impact resistant to lighter impacts and weathering over time, and it is going to be UV resistant to eliminate any fogging on the lens. Now, in addition to the features of the lens itself, it is going to have some dimension to it, which will add a lot of character to the styling compared to flat choices. Now, the LEDs on the inside will also be much more efficient than the factory incandescent with a low energy draw, so you're not going to have to maintenance these over time, and they will be completely DOT and SAE approved, as well as completely plug and play. This set will come in at about $550 and will actually be one of the more affordable choices in the category for a set of taillights. Now lighting with the design will come down to your personal preference and the appearance that you want for your build, but if you do want that smoke vibe and a clean taillight style with a more minimal light bar build compared to some other busier choices, and also getting a full LED build with a more low profile appearance, then this is going to be a great option to consider. Install will be a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, and it should probably take about an hour or so to get the job done with some pretty basic hand tools. Now speaking of the install, one of our customers has actually installed this set on their Bronco, and it's going to walk us through a full detailed breakdown on how you can get these onto yours at home. So that is going to wrap it up for my review. Let's go ahead and jump into the install.
And here's the tools that you're going to need for your install. You have a pry tool, 3/8 ratchet, 3/8 drive extender, 10mm socket, 8mm socket, Phillips screwdriver. The Phillips screwdriver and the pry tool you'll use to remove the tabs from the interior trim piece, the ratchet and the extension, and of course your sockets there are going to be used to remove all of the bolts. Alright, so today I'm going to show you guys how to install the Morimoto XB LED tail lights on your Bronco with the factory halogen tail lights. So the first step is we're going to have to pull off this fender in order to access this panel that will reveal additional bolts that are actually holding this housing on. So the first thing you're going to do is come underneath the fender and flip these little tabs. Here's another one, and so on and so forth. So there's actually, you're just going to flip the tabs until they unlock, and then once they're loose in there, you're just going to pull it. The whole thing will come off. Like so. All right, so once you get the fender removed, we need to remove this bottom trim piece, which just snaps onto the body. And so you're just gonna pry it with your hands to get it loose, just like that. And there's two more of these clips that hold it on. So you just snap that right off. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Once you get those trim pieces off, the next step is to come in here and remove each one of these clips that are holding in this interior trim piece that needs to come out in order to access those. So for this, you're going to need your pry tool and a Phillips screwdriver. Get that screw loose, the tab will just pop right out. All right, so once you get those 4 tabs out, there's going to be 2 bolts right here that we need to pull in order to access the light itself. Those are going to be 10mm bolts. And so with your 10mm socket and extension, you're just going to pull these 2 bolts out. That's the last remaining items or material that's preventing that trim piece from coming out. Now once you get those 2 bolts out, this trim piece just pulls right out. Kind of gotta finesse it a little bit to get it out without tearing it. The final trim piece that needs to come off before you can actually take off the tail light assembly itself is going to be this trim piece here, which is held on by another little bolt way down here at the bottom that is also going to be 10mm. And then once you get that bolt off, it just pops off by these 3 little tabs here. The last step in order to get this housing out is going to be these 2 screws, or bolts rather, on the outside, also 10mm. And this should be the last one on the bottom. Alright, now it should just slide right out. And then of course you have your connector that you just pinch on the side to disengage it and pull it out. And there you have the old factory OEM halogen tail light. Now these tail lights, we're converting from halogen to LED. So you're gonna need these resistors in order to keep from a gremlin getting released in your truck and causing issues with your electrical system. So Morimoto includes these transistors with these magnetic backs, and we're gonna find a way to mount these in here while they plug into this piece here, which will make it hopefully work. And you're gonna make sure that you hold these wires, which are for the lower light bar that I'm not installing, up out of the way so they don't dangle when you go to mount your light. So I'm gonna line up my tabs on the inside. I'm leaving the plastic on for right now, just so that while I'm tightening it down, I don't end up scratching the housing of the actual light housing itself. So once we get that into place, we're gonna start by replacing our 10mm bolts. Actually, these were the 8mm. I'm just gonna get them snug for now. I'm not gonna tighten them all the way down yet until I line up all of the other bolts, and then we'll come back around and tighten each one of them up. So next is gonna be the bolt on the outside there. Now that's tight and snug in there. We can come back around and tighten our 8mm bolts. Now we're going to start by going ahead and replacing the trim, starting with this front trim piece and then moving on to this trim piece, the interior trim piece, and then finally the fender back on. So I'm just going to align my tabs, snapping it back into place, and then the final bolt on the bottom here. Okay, and then moving on to the interior trim piece. For this one, we're going to want to angle it in similarly to the way that we pulled it out, so we can get it back in there as if it was never removed. And then we're just going to simply put our 10mm bolts back in place, followed by our tabs or clips, whatever you want to call them. And with your 10mm socket, tighten those back down. Same thing with the lower bolt. Interior trim piece is back, tucked it into the bottom of the bumper. Now we're going to put back this bottom trim piece here, and we're just going to pop it back the exact same way that we removed it. So we're going to start with this part that's under the tail light itself, and then a line on the side here. You'll see that there's these slotted clips that you're going to want to align it with, and then give it a good shove to get it back into place. Going to align the holes with the tabs on the fender. Just snaps right back in, and then you're just going to twist those same levers on the inside all the way the opposite way to lock them down. Make sure that it snaps completely in before you turn those, And then you give it a good tug afterwards to make sure that it's fully attached so it won't pull off. All right. Driver's side is done. Remove the plastic. Tail light is installed. Now moving on to the passenger side. The only difference obviously is we have a tailgate on this side, which makes it a little bit more difficult to get in on the other side, but it's still easy enough. Same exact process that we did over there. Unscrew these to make these little tabs pop out a little bit easier. You got 4 of those. Sometimes they get a little stripped, and that's where you want to use your pop out tool. After you get those tabs removed, then of course we have the 2 10mm bolts again on the inside here. One there, one down here. And just like the other side, pull the trim piece out. The only difference, again, tailgate's in the way, so you have this additional strap. Just be careful not to rip your trim piece while you're trying to pull it out past this body section. Okay. Next step is going to be to remove this trim piece that's still in place. So for that, come around to this side, and we've got the 1 10mm bolt all the way down here at the bottom of this trim piece. And while we're out here, we've got to remove this top 10mm bolt from the outside. And once we have that free, I'm going to go ahead and pry off the trim piece. And it's just like the other side where you have the 3 tabs that align here. Now all that's left are these 2 8mm bolts here, and then we'll be able to remove our second housing. Tire light assembly should come off just like the other side. We got the 1 clip. Press in, pull, and it's free. Halogen is gone. And when putting them back in, obviously we're going to reattach the wiring harness, and then we're going to align these tabs, this one here and this one. This one goes in here, and then this one on the bottom is going to align with this hole here. Snaps into place. Tighten that 10mm bolt on the outside. Then we're going to come back in and we're going to hit those 2 8mm. Because you're working in such a tight space with the body of the vehicle, I don't want to twist my ratchet too much right here. So what I like to do is hand tighten these in with the extension, and then I'll torque them down a little bit more with the ratchet, being extra careful to ensure that I don't scratch the paint. Okay, light's now in place. All that's left to do is replace the 3 trim pieces, including the fender, and then it's all done. So starting with the first trim piece. Actually found out while working on the other side that when reinstalling this lower trim piece, it's actually easier to align with the rear fender first and then snap into these than the other way around. So I'm going to start on this side, snapping it back into place, and then it just pops right back on. Fender, same as on the other side. Align your holes, push it back, and then flip the tabs all the way around. It's in there. Peel off the plastic. Now the only last step to do is to put the interior trim piece back in on the passenger side, and your tail lights are installed. Again, with the tailgate in the way, I'm just gonna start by tightening these by hand so that I don't scratch the tailgate. And then I'll crank it down with the ratchet. Once those bolts are in, the last step is just putting your push tabs back into the 4 holes on the trim. 1, 2, 3.
So that's going to wrap it up for my review and the install of these Morimoto XB LED low-profile taillights with the black housing and smoke lens, fitting all 2021 and newer Ford Broncos, excluding the Raptor models. And you can find this set right here at extremeterrain.com.